Hey everyone. So today my extension assignment is bipolar disorder and art therapy. So before we go any deeper, let's first quickly discuss what is bipolar disorder. So for this slide, my source would be the National Institute of Mental Health when describing like the symptoms in bipolar. So bipolar disorder is unusual shifts in one's mood, energy, activity level, concentration, ability to carry out everyday tasks, and trouble regulating their emotions. And as we learned in class, bipolar has three subtypes. These would be bipolar 1, which is full blown mania with depressive episodes, bipolar 2, which is hypomania alternating with depressive episodes, and cyclothymic, I don't know how to say that, disorder. Hypomanic slash depressive episodes that are not severe but are persistent for about 2 years. So next, let's look at what art therapy is. And personally, prior to doing this extension assignment, I honestly had no clue that art therapy was a thing. So I'm kind of hoping there are some out there that also never heard of art therapy, because after doing research, it is a pretty interesting field of therapy. So art therapy would emerge and become popularized by British artist Adrian Hill and American psychologist Margaret Nomberg during the 1940s. Also, the sources that I got came from a book, literally just called Art Therapy by David Edwards. And in the book, he gives like the history of art therapy and in my next slide, why it should be practiced. Now, Nomberg's methods of art therapy were conducted by expressing the unconscious mind through the usage of spontaneous art. Um, Another thing to mention is that while Adrian Hill did first coin the term art therapy, it wouldn't be big until Margaret Nomberg had like methods of conducting it in the 40s. And I believe in the art therapy book, David Edwards cites Nomberg as being like the mother of art therapy. And the AATA defines art therapy as, and AATA stands for the American Art Therapy Association. They define art therapy as art therapy is the therapeutic use of art making within a professional relationship by people who experience illness, trauma, or challenges in living, and by people who seek personal development. Through creating art and reflecting on the art products and processes, people can increase awareness of self and others, cope with symptoms, stress and traumatic experiences, enhance cognitive abilities, and enjoy the life affirming pleasures of making art. And a big factor that would go into art therapy would be the triangle relationship. During an art therapy session, focus could be placed heavily or not on each of these axes. And I don't know if you can see my mouse, but like, let's say for an example, if a session was focusing heavily on the client's artwork, the therapist might be like, well, let's lean off the artwork a bit and just focus on you and me. So the relationship between them would mainly just be a client and art therapist relationship or session, rather than focusing on the artwork too much during that session. So now, why art therapy? And as I said, this brings up David Edwards' reasonings on why art therapy can have a lot of breakthroughs. And a couple of these breakthroughs can be by improving one's emotional growth, self-esteem, and social/psychological interaction in supportive relationships. Possibility to reflect on certain experiences by externalizing it. Could embody emotions that clients would deem intolerable. Symbols are ways that one can explain their experiences with the world through shapes, and the overall nature of physical artworks supply us with a lasting record of an imaginative process. So now next, the first 15 minutes is a theoretical article done by researchers Suzanne Hayen and Lisa Hinz. And I know this is a lot of information, so I'm going to try to sum it up the best I can. But the main process, or the main goal of the main argument of the study was that clients preferred ways of information processing, emotion regulation strategies in art making, and attachment patterns in the material handling process. So to go back, the main argument was that the first 15 minutes of an art therapy session can reveal these things. How is bipolar disorder involved? The expressive therapies continuum. The ETC explains how clients take in and process information through interaction with art materials. ETC follows a 3-level bipolar hierarchy system that goes from simple to complex when demonstrating creative expression. And these 3 creative levels are the kinesthetic, sensory, perceptual, affective, and cognitive, symbolic. And I have definitions on here, but I'm going to be going more in depth in the next slide. So understanding the creative levels. So kinesthetic / sensory, usage of art materials for sensations and actions, not worried about the final product. So mainly a lot of emotion regulation can go through just like touching an art material. I believe in the first 15 minutes, that is like one of the first few sentences in the beginning of the reading. Now, this is where, as you can tell, there's a slash in here because there is a bit of a difference when looking at the perceptual and cognitive side of it, and then the affective and symbolic. So perceptual, images consisting of precise, symmetrical and geometric forms, and cognitive, demonstrated through words or art activities that center around storytelling or problem solving. Affective, form is less important, paint and chalk, fluid media with bright / dark colors used to express emotions. Symbolic is the usage of complexly layered personal or universal symbolic representations. And then finally, the goal of ETC for patients is to achieve optimal functioning, balance / flexible use of all ETC creative levels. And for art therapists, in the first 15 minutes of a session, ETC can help come to a conclusion about how a client interacts with the world, establish ways to overcome persistent problems in patient's life, and can include ways on how to conduct a therapeutic intervention. And these are some of the handy dandy little sources that I used. And yeah, that was my extension assignment for this week. So I hope you guys enjoyed.